Outside the chapel, the one that had been sealed for generations, a stray dog barked frantically into the suffocating night. Its desperate cries were cut short, however, when a stain on the air, a shadow darker than darkness itself, bled from the chapel doors. The dog's barking became a choked whimper caught deep in its throat. The shadow coiled around it, a silent, swirling vortex of malice. Then, with an unnatural lurch, the dog was lifted into the air, its body twisting as it was dragged inside the condemned building. For a moment, you could hear the frantic scrabbling of its claws on the stone floor. Then, only silence. A few moments later, its limp body was thrown back outside. This time, though, there were no signs of life. It was a bloodless husk, its eyes like frosted glass, its fur as white as bone. This was the old chapel on the outskirts of Havenwood, a place forgotten by time and shunned by the living. A few days later, a bus full of college kids on a field trip rolled into the sleepy town. That night, restless and bored, 3 of them slipped out of their motel room, invisible to their sleeping chaperones. I swear one of them, Levi, grumbled, kicking a loose stone. "They're treating us like we're in middle school. What's the point of a trip like this if we can't have any real fun?" "Tell me about it," Silas chimed in. "Be back by 9 o'clock. Don't go there. Dinner is at 6. I thought we'd at least get to hang out, maybe meet some new people. But no, we're stuck staring at the walls while everyone else is in the other motel." So, Caleb, the quietest of the 3, finally spoke. "We're out. Now what?" "Now," Levi said with a grin, "we just walk." The 3 friends wandered down the desolate road, their voices the only sound in the dead of night. After a while, a shape began to form in the gloom ahead of them, the skeletal frame of the abandoned chapel. "Whoa, look at that," Silas whispered, his voice full of awe. "It's kinda beautiful, isn't it?" "Beautiful, maybe," Caleb replied, his arms crossed. "But it also looks like no one set foot in there for 100 years. It's probably some forgotten ruin." "Let's go inside," Levi urged, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "No way," Caleb said immediately. "Let's not. We can come back in the morning." "In the morning?" Levi scoffed. "In the morning, the professors will have us on a leash. They'd never let us get close to a place like this. Come on, what's the difference between night and day? Besides, we've got flashlights on our phones. Think of it, a little adventure to save this boring trip." Caleb's gut screamed at him to turn back, but faced with Levi and Silas's goading, he reluctantly followed them towards the gaping maw of the chapel entrance. The air inside was thick and dead, tasting of dust and decay. Heavy, shroud-like cobwebs hung from every surface. As the thin beams of their phone lights pierced the darkness, a leathery explosion of shrieking bodies erupted from the rafters, and dozens of bats swarmed out into the night. "Okay, this place has been sealed for a long, long time," Silas muttered. "The bats have taken over. Guys, the vibe in here is it's not right," Caleb stammered, his voice trembling. "I really think we should go." Sad. As he turned to leave, something tightened around his ankle, yanking him back. He let out a terrified shriek. "What is it?" Silas yelled. "Something grabbed my leg," Caleb screamed, thrashing on the floor. "It has my leg." Silas pointed his flashlight down at Caleb's foot. A thick rotted rope was coiled around his ankle. Seeing it, both Levi and Silas burst out laughing. "You were so scared to come in here," Levi chuckled, "that you're getting spooked by a piece of rope. Get up, you big baby. There's nothing here. Look at the architecture of this place." He grabbed Caleb's hand and pulled him deeper into the church. They were standing in the main hall, their lights tracing the crumbling walls, when suddenly, the chapel's ancient light fixtures began to flicker violently, buzzing on and off. "How is there even power in here?" Caleb whispered, his fear returning. "This is not right. We need to leave, now." He grabbed his friend's hands and pulled them towards the entrance, but just as they reached it, the heavy oak doors slammed shut with a deafening boom that echoed through the entire structure. The 3 of them threw their weight against the doors, but they wouldn't budge. They were sealed. "How is this possible?" Silas panted. "It was wide open a second ago. Who closed it?" "Please stop it," Levi yelled into the darkness. "This isn't funny. If you're trying to scare us, it worked." "There has to be another way out," Caleb said, his voice strained. "Let's find it." As Levi turned away from the door, his words died in his throat. His eyes widened in pure, undiluted terror. Standing right in front of him, so close he could smell the grave dirt on her clothes, was a nun. But her eyes, they weren't eyes, they were burning red coals set deep in a face of cracked, pale porcelain, and she stared at them with an ancient, predatory hatred. What is that thing?" Silas whispered. "Run," Caleb screamed. But as they scrambled back, the nun didn't move. She simply dissolved into a greasy black vapor that vanished into the air. Where did it go?" Silas stammered, whipping his head from side to side. Just then, they heard a sickening, wet crunching sound. They turned to see Levi on the ground. He was crawling, writhing on the stone floor. His eyes were now the same burning red as the nun's. His face was a deathly white, and the skin on his hands and feet was blistered and burned. He moved with an unnatural speed, scuttling like an insect towards them. They scrambled back in horror, pressing themselves into a corner as Levi writhed on the floor, his tongue, impossibly long, lapping at the air. One moment they saw his face, twisted in agony, and the next it was the face of the demonic nun smiling at them. "What did we ever do to you?" Caleb cried, tears of terror streaming down his face. "Please, just let our friend go. Let us leave this place. Please, we'll never come back." Caleb clasped his hands together, begging. The thing wearing Levi's body just stared at him, its smile widening. It lunged forward and grabbed Caleb's wrist, trying to pull him down. But the instant its corrupted flesh touched the simple silver cross that hung from Caleb's wrist, a gift from his grandmother, it recoiled with a shriek of agony. Awful jolt threw the creature back, and it collapsed to the ground. The black vapor poured out of Levi's mouth, and he fell unconscious. Silas rushed to his side, trying to wake him. Levi, wake up, man," he pleaded. "We have to get out of here. Please, wake up." "Do you truly believe you can escape her?" a calm voice said from the shadows. "No, you are her prey now. No one escapes this place. Even the wild animals that wander in here by mistake, she doesn't spare them. You are human. Your deaths are certain. And yet, I feel something different is going to happen tonight." Before the man, a priest, could say another word, the black vapor materialized again and shot towards Silas, its spectral hands closing around his throat. His breath caught in his chest. Choking, he looked at Caleb with desperate eyes. "Caleb, run," he rasped. "Get out of here, now. You have the cross, that holy power, she can't touch you. Go." "I'm not leaving you," Caleb screamed back. "I'm telling you to go." Silas choked out, but the nun's grip tightened. Her long black fingernails dug into his neck, drawing blood. Then, to their horror, the nun's head tilted back as a long forked tongue darted out and began to lick the blood from his neck. Gasp! Silas was convulsing. Caleb was frozen, his mind screaming. On one side was the demon, and on the other his dying friends. Then a thought pierced through his fear. He ripped the cross from his own wrist, holding it before him like a shield. He bellowed with all the faith he could muster, "In the name of God, I banish you." He lunged forward and pressed the silver cross against the nun's forehead. An unearthly scream tore through the chapel as smoke poured from her body. She shrieked and convulsed, releasing Silas, who fell to the floor in a heap. The nun writhed on the ground as a thick, black, tar-like substance poured from her mouth and eyes, pooling on the stone. Levi was still unconscious. Silas was barely breathing. Caleb knew he needed help, but there was no one. His desperate eyes fell upon a statue of Jesus at the altar. "Oh, Jesus," he sobbed, his voice breaking. "I don't know your prayers, but how can this evil exist in your house? How can it prey on your people? Please help us." As his tears fell, a miracle happened. The chapel, dark for decades, was suddenly flooded with a warm, brilliant light. The priest stepped forward and knelt beside the two fallen boys, beginning to treat their wounds. He then walked over to the twitching form of the nun, uncorked a small vial, and began to sprinkle holy water on her, while praying for her soul's release. As he prayed, they all watched as the nun's spirit, now a shimmering white light, rose from the black ooze and was absorbed into the statue of Jesus. "Your courage and your faith, my child," the priest said, placing a hand on Caleb's shoulder, "have finally given that poor wandering soul the peace she could never find. God bless you. Your friends are fine now. By morning they will remember none of this. You must all leave and never speak of what happened here tonight to anyone." Just as the priest said, when they returned to the motel, and when they woke the next morning, Silas and Levi had forgotten everything. But Caleb could never forget that night of terror.
As their bus pulled out of Havenwood, he looked out the window. Where the decrepit chapel once stood, there was nothing but an empty field. In the distance, he saw the priest, who simply smiled at him. The priest raised his hand, and Caleb felt a single cool drop of water land on his forehead. And just like that, the horrifying memories of the night before washed away. But the people of Havenwood would never forget them. They would become a local legend, the boys who, by some miracle, finally cleansed the evil of whispering.